Right. Let's talk a little bit more about working on the Sarah Silverman program. You mentioned that both of you have been involved in the writing process this year, which you weren't. What were your after being involved in the first season? What were your favorite aspects of the show that you thought were particularly great or worked particularly well?
It's a really good question.
I think one thing that works so well that they did it quite a bit is the conflict between us. Like, we argue a lot, which I think this season you're going to see less of that because it really did happen a lot. But yeah, I mean, a lot of our B stories were just revolved around conflict between the two of us. This season, I don't think you're going to see that as much. But it was fun. It's kind of fun coming in and yelling at each other all day.
For me, it's more like the world that the whole show creates, I think, is really great. And it just feels, I think what people like about it is, I don't know, because I'm not watching it from the outside, but just the way we all kind of react off of her craziness. I think those are my favorite scenes, are like the diner scenes, really, and they remind me of Seinfeld, the way those scenes would all interact. Like the A, B, and C stories on Seinfeld would always, or not always, but a lot of times either jump out of the diner or come together at the diner if the scene was later in the episode. Whatever Elaine was going through would be talked about, and I love that about our show, that we kind of, I don't know that I've seen other people make the Seinfeld comparison, but I definitely see it, and I really like that about our show. And it feels fun. Like, a lot of times lately, especially in season 2, we're not in the Sarah stories that much.
We didn't work with her a lot.
We'll come in, our story will intersect at the end with her story, and that's really fun. It just feels like and then we don't wind up working with her that much during the week, so it's fun shooting it where you see her on Monday when you're doing the diner scene with, hey, this is what our story is today, and this is what her story is today, and then we leave and we go off and we have fun and do our stupid story and be silly, and then come back and see her at the end of the week. It's really a cool thing, and we see that from the inside. Does that make any sense? Because
no, absolutely, and it reminds me of one of the interesting tricks that the show pulls off, which is with your characters, and also to a certain extent Laura Silverman and Jay Johnston's characters. You have the very difficult challenge of making a world in which someone literally behaves as Sarah Silverman's, stand-up comedy stage persona does, make sense and make that world make sense as a place where that person would have friends,
right.
Or,
Yeah, I hate to use the word grounding, but I think it actually works there. We do I think our characters, myself and Steve, and then definitely Jay and Laura. Yeah, we ground her. We show that these are people that care about her still, even no matter what insane things she does that day. That normally if your friend did some of those things, if your friend pretended or said that they had AIDS and then at the end of the day told you, no, I don't really have AIDS and I never really thought I did, you would go, you're insane and I'm not going to hang out with you anymore, you know?
Have there been, when you're in the writer's room and you're putting together stories and putting together jokes, have there been stories for Sarah Silverman's character that have been determined to be too far off the wall, like too much of her? I mean, it's hard to go much further past pretending that you have AIDS in order to, gain sympathy. And I think she started a charity in that episode or something.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to get to those stories different ways, too, because they don't want it to be the crazy thing of the week show, And so I think they're trying to find more creative ways to get her to do something and make it more organic and where she either misinterprets something or just doesn't, just jumps into something without thinking about it. I think they're really looking at more ways to make you still have fun with that and not go, oh, I get it. Now she did that last week. Now she's doing this. Yeah. Oh, that's all the show is. And I think it's real important that they stay away from those kind of, or, making you feel that way about those stories. So,
was there an element? The initial order for the program was relatively short, a relatively small number of episodes initially. And I don't think Comedy Central, I don't think a lot of other people expected it to be as much of a success as it has been to this point. And Comedy Central came back with a relatively big order of episodes. Was it scary to think, well, where do we take these bizarre little set pieces for, what was it, 14 episodes for the new season or something like that?
16. It was originally 14, and then they went even further. Yeah. That's a concern, and the writers all think about it, and we've commented on it. One of the big things Steve already mentioned is we don't want our characters to just be bitchy at each other every week too. At a certain point, you're going to stop believing that these characters even like each other and that they should be together. So we're trying to find, and they're trying to find stories where it's not about the argument of the week, and so it is definitely a concern when you've done 6 to then go, okay, now come up with 16 more. Those were great.
It's good,
and they've got to be as good as the original 6 too, and it's hard.
And another cool thing about having that many of those, now we can, do story arcs that go through the season and not just an episode.
That's true. They have thought about that kind of stuff too.
So
which we can't really talk about where our characters are going. But there definitely is, they definitely know what we're going to be doing by the end of season 2. So.
I think an unusual thing about the structure of the show is that Sarah Silverman's character, being sort of like a woman child. I mean,
it's great. Yeah, it's
like
great.
Honestly, like a sort of like a feral woman child.
Well, she's a lot like the Get a Life, the man-child, the Chris Elliott man-child character. That's a great way of putting it, the woman-child, yeah, for sure.
That your characters and, again, Laura Silverman and Jay Johnson's characters also represent kind of real-life romance and commitment and, stability in a funny way. Do you have to kind of go out of your way to remember to write into an episode a moment where there is actual shared emotion between your characters, for example?
That's more, that's more the writers. I mean, Brian and I, our writing involvement is more just going in and pitching ideas, once a month or so, and then
or helping out when they're beating out an outline too.
Exactly. Yeah. As far as the actual dialogue, though, that lies with the writers.
What was the thing?
But I think what you're asking.
Go ahead.
What you're asking is
keeping us real,
keeping kind of a little bit of a sweetness to your relationship to balance out.
That's definitely on the writers. I think they've been real good at that. Of every time we blow up at each other, at the end we're gonna pump fists and decide we're still in love and we're still gay for each other.
Were there? What was the moment?